Hey, welcome back guys. So we're continuing on with this guitar body paint job today. In our last video we put our coat of Encore brown on the edges. Now it does look very dark. That's because I sprayed 2 relatively heavy coats of this. If you want it to look lighter, don't spray so much of it on there. It is a fairly dark color, but you can definitely get it lighter by simply using less of said color. So now today we're going to put the Starburst on the front. Now this can get a bit complicated. Again, this technique is kind of primarily designed for acoustic guitars, and acoustic guitars have a flat front generally. They don't have this cutaway. But we're going to apply the same technique, and I believe it's going to work fairly well. So what I'm going to do is place the guitar on a piece of cardboard, or poster board, which is a type of cardboard, and I'm going to trace around it. I'm just going to trace the outline of the body. Just with a pencil. Now in some of these areas where the carveaways are, you got to be a little bit more creative with it. But anyway, so there we go. I have the outline of the body. I don't know if you can see it there. And then what I'm going to do next is come in. Now this is the part where it's kind of up to you how big or small you want your sunburst. I want mine not particularly big. So I'm going to come in, a bit, maybe 1.5 inches or so from the edge when I do mine. So I'm going to have my burst effect roughly like that around the shape of the guitar. Now the reason I'm doing this, of course, is to mask off the center of the guitar so that paint doesn't get on it. However, you can't just apply this directly to the guitar, or you're going to end up with this hard, crappy line where the edge of the cardboard was. So once you've got it drawn out, cut out your shape, and then you're going to need to find some nails or some screws. Screws would be the better choice in my opinion, because the threads will hold this thing up. Now, the specifications that came with this guitar finishing kit suggested 2-inch screws. I'm looking for a fairly tight burst with a relatively hard line, so I'm going to go smaller than that. I'm going to use 3/4 inch screws or something like that, or 1-inch screws. But if you want a nice kind of fanned out broader burst, you're going to use a longer screw, and that's going to give the paint more opportunity to dissipate. So what you do is you put the screws through your cardboard and they hold it off the surface. The reason we use screws, I know it might seem kind of odd to have those hard tips sitting against your instrument, or sharp tips rather, but those sharp tips don't really block any significant amount of paint. So something sharp like that is your best option. Alright guys, so there we have our mask. So that's going to sit kind of slightly within the edges of the guitar. Where this carve away is, I'm going to have to be very careful for my spraying. Now I'm just going to put some screws through it. It doesn't have to be a whole ton of them, but just jam a few through there so it'll sit up off the surface of your wood, and so that it'll kind of be stable enough that it doesn't bow. The number of screws you need kind of depends on the thickness or stability of the piece of cardboard that you've chosen. I've got poster board here. It's relatively sturdy stuff, so I really don't need very many screws. Let's see how it does with 3. All right, that's not bad. The pieces on the ends here tend to sag a little bit for me because I've only got one in the middle here. So I'm going to add another one over on the front / bottom there, because I don't want that to sag down, but I'm going to leave the area with this arm carve here unsupported so that the cardboard kind of droops a little bit, and I'm just going to put the screw in from the wrong side. I'm just going to hope that spraying it doesn't cause it to move a whole bunch. All right, so now I get it positioned. These screws are very short, so it's going to be a fairly, like I said, a fairly sharp burst effect when I do this. And that's it. Now I can go ahead and shake up my paint and spray it again. So what I'm using for this one is the brown again, the same as I did on the back and the sides. And then I'm going to go in with the other color that has been provided in the kit, the Starcast Amber. And I'm going to maybe widen this out a little bit with some freehand burst painting. So I'll get this shaken up, throw the mask on, and we can get to it. So this part's pretty straightforward, really. You just follow the line. If you spray it more of a vertical angle, straight downward type thing, then you'll kind of follow up more accurately when you're on the like as it transfers onto the guitar. And if you spray from a little bit of a lower angle, you'll get a little bit more fade out. You can see I'm spraying pretty vertically, so with that and the fact that I'm using fairly short screws, kind of everything I'm doing here points to this being a very sharp burst effect. I did a bit of spraying there while I was standing right in front of the camera, so I just cut that out. But yeah, this is pretty straightforward. All right, guys, so there's the Encore Brown burst. Like I said, whoa, it's a pretty aggressive burst that I went with, a fairly hard line. It does still fade in, but not a whole heck of a lot, because that's what I wanted. If you were going for a broader or more faded burst, if that makes sense, you're going to want to go with like a 2-inch screw or something like that to give the paint more room to fade out underneath. So the higher your template is off of your surface, the more room there's going to be for that overspray to kind of create that faded burst effect. Now, because I feel like it, I'm now going to go in with the Starcast Amber, which is another color that comes in the kit, and I'm going to freehand this burst and widen it out. So I've got the aggressive brown burst, but I'm going to make it I'm going to add another tone and widen it out with this by hand, just kind of to demonstrate how well these cans work and how controllable they are and everything. So I'm just going to go in, follow this line by hand, and widen this burst out to, you know, your standard kind of two-tone look. And if it doesn't look good because the colors don't really work, or if I don't do a very good job, then I'll fill in the rest of the center with this as well. So this has only really been on there, it was about 3-4 minutes when I started talking. 10 should be sufficient, I think, to go over it again with this. So really, I'm just going to shake this for a couple minutes, not even, probably, it feels pretty good, maybe 30 seconds. Throw the mask on, lay this thing back down, and then we'll shoot the amber. So because this color is lighter, it's considerably more versatile, but I'm basically going in, not worrying about going over the brown at all. That's perfectly fine if I spray right over top, because this color is transparent, and if anything, it's just going to darken it slightly. So I go over that and I angle the can and just follow the line, and it fades out nicely. And I'm noticing here that it's kind of orange right next to the edge, and it kind of fades out to yellow. So I end up making use of that when I do my second pass off camera here, which I forgot to film, unfortunately. Alright guys, so as you can see, that can is very easy to control, very easy to spray a nice line with, and as long as you're careful, it's easy to get that Starburst by hand. I could have definitely done the brown Starburst by hand too if I wanted that kind of look, and if I wanted a slightly less hard line for that, but I wanted to kind of demonstrate both techniques. So I showed you how to get the harder line with the brown, and a way to get the lighter if you want to use a template, and then how to get the lighter line, the better fade, doing it by hand with the Starcast Amber. Now, after I did that coat on camera, I shut the camera off, and then I kind of looked at it and I realized, because I've never used that color before, that you kind of have an opportunity with it because of the way that it builds up, because it's a lighter color, to go yellow if you use a light coat, or if you build up a heavier coat or a couple coats, you can go orange as well. So I went back in. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn on the camera to film it, and I did one more pass with it, starting right from the edge and kind of fading in a larger fade, so that I could get a nice fade from brown to orange to yellow. And I must say, I'm pretty happy with the results. Let's see if I can get this to show up properly. It's not really working on the camera, or at least not according to the viewfinder, but I've got kind of my light. This is basically just wood color right in this area, fades to a nice light orange or yellow, and then into a deep orange kind of in this area, and then I've got still my harder line where it goes into the brown. Now, so, I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful color. That amber I could do probably, if I built up another coat of it, it'd start to turn kind of red. I could really have done the entire fade with that if I wanted to, or I could have obviously faded the brown more gently into this. I could probably go back and do that now if I wanted to. Anyway, very versatile, particularly that amber. The brown, because it's so dark, less versatile. You're gonna get either, oh God, this camera's not showing this very well. My apologies for that. You're gonna get either the nice brownish, deep brownish tone there, or more almost a black if you build it up a little darker. So that's about it. That's pretty much all you need to know to be able to paint that Starburst effect with your spray cans in this format. When we come back, I believe the next step is going to be to move on to the clear coat. So make sure you check out the previous videos in this series if you haven't yet. This will be number 3 if I'm not mistaken. And stay tuned for the clear coat part. And once again, if you haven't taken a look at that contest, you might want to do that. We're giving away one of these kits. It's going to be awesome. So as always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and have a good one. See you next time.